Mr. Mike Sutton.
How are we doing?
Fantastic as always, mate. Got me a little sloth mug on the go. You know how it
Oh.
rolls.
Perfect for a Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, mate. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, nice and fresh. How you keeping? You all right?
Yeah, you know how it is, mate. Just cracking on. That's all you can do, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It's obviously very difficult because it's something we've never experienced before, and so we're all sort of trying to understand and cope best way we can. And
Yeah, 100%.
you know, I mean, thankfully, I think you've been working through this, haven't you, for the most part?
Yeah. I was working. Oh God, the first bit of it, I was working in Tesco, and then just doing little bits and bats, and then gigs came around at one point again, didn't they?
Yeah.
And I remember we were playing like two or three of those gigs, and then it went back into another lockdown where it wasn't able to play them.
Yeah.
But it was such a weird experience playing to people who were like just sat down rather than stood up on a dance floor. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So weird.
Yeah. Well, you can definitely sort of come out of this saying that you've had a unique experience in that.
Oh, mate.
You know,
Unbelievable.
I mean, I went to like a sort of mini rave that they did. It was all legal, and they had like health officials there to make sure that it was all kind of distance. But these trance guys from Birmingham, the promoters, they put on I think it was 300 tickets they sold, and it sold out within a day like that. But what they did, they just hired this field from a farmer or whatever, and they planked 2 stages sort of back to back. And then obviously the crowd would go, backwards out into the field. But they sort of had like these boxes where everyone would stand in. And yeah, you know, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, it was much better than not doing anything at all. You know,
yeah.
It was amazing to hear some quality music on some speakers again for the first time in a while.
Rather than just rockets in your room.
yeah, just getting off those things down there.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I love that. I've not even got a pair of rockets, mate. I just use. I've just got like. Well, I did used to have speakers, but my mate broke them at my old flat, so I don't have any. I've got like this little speaker that I have at the side of me, and then I just have it all in my ears and just rock out, be cock out. Love
it. Well, that's something I was going to ask you as well, because it's interesting. There's very few DJs that I see do it. But I'm pretty sure you don't wear headphones, do you? You have in-ear plugs.
Yeah, so the in-ears of they've kind of come all the way from when I used to play in bands.
Okay.
So when I used to play in bands, I used to play live sets to a click track. So I'd have like everything. I'd have like, you know, my separate mixes going through. So whether it be like drums, vocals, guitar, etc. And then I'd have the backing track and a click to obviously keep me in time and keep the rest of the guys in time. And the rest of the band didn't use any in-ears. It was just me that was using them. Right. But obviously, because I was playing to the click track, it just meant that it was vital, really. So I tried. I used to DJ with Sennheiser HD 25s.
Okay.
I got them. And I was like, oh yeah, these are mint. Like, they sound really, really good. And then started using in-ears, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna try some in-ears for DJing and see what that's like. And because obviously they fit over your ears, and you can bounce about and whatever. They're not gonna fall off. And I rarely have, even if I'm playing in a club or a live venue, I'll have the monitors on at the side, but I won't have it too loud, so I can still have the overall mix coming through my in-ears as well. And a lot of people have said that. A lot of people have said, "Why? How come you use in-ears? Are headphones not better?" I was like, honestly, like I can't imagine going back to playing with headphones again.
Really,
it's weird. Honestly, it's once you get them in, and you don't even feel like you've got anything on. They're just super light as well, and you can just jump around, like do whatever. Because your videos, I've seen you jumping, I'm like, he's gonna break his bloody headphones.
Yeah, I think I might have to possibly take some of them up as well, because fucking multiple times I knock my my AUX out, and I'm like, Christ.
I love your videos. I'm like, he's gonna break his headphones up one point. I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I just recently noticed last night, I was recording another one, and I noticed the bloody, like where the actual cable goes into the bit that goes into, you know, the plug.
Oh, yeah.
That started to come away. I was like, these are my precious
No.
headphones, my first headphones, and I know I'm going to have to replace the headphones.
Which ones have you got?
You know, the V Moders.
Yes.
They're the ones that W&W wear. They're like,
oh, yeah.
yeah, they're kind of like I don't know, what's a six-sided shape? Jesus Christ, we're doing maths already. they got like a six-sided plates on them, and you can customize them. You can take them out. You know what I mean? They're quite popular.
Don't they do a version of those headphones where there's not a wire in them as well? I'm not too sure.
Yeah. So they do two. They do I think it's called the V Moda crossfaders, which are my ones, and that most DJs use because they're best for sort of live. But then they also do like a producer set as well. I think they're just called like the twos or whatever, and they're more sort of just for in a studio situation.
Yeah, they look smart though. Definitely.
But oh my god, I've never heard sound like it on any other pair of headphones. Like, it's unreal. And like you say, all of them are Bluetooth anyway.
Yeah.
They're amazing headphones. But I've noticed like there's definitely some DJs that do it as well. Like Layback Luke obviously does what you do with the in-ears. Yeah. Quintino, I don't think he does in-ears, but he just uses like little almost £10 like earplugs.
Yeah. James Ipe uses in-ear.
Yeah, I've seen that as well.
I think he uses the Shaw edition of them, I think. But yeah, there's not that many that use them. Especially a lot of new people starting out. You obviously get like all your bundle deals, so you get like your controller, a set of whatever monitors, and then some headphones or whatever. And and I know a lot of people who have tried in-ears, but they don't like them. I think it's just personal preference, really. Like, when I was wearing headphones, I was taking them off and putting them back on. But with in-ears, I can kind of I can just keep listening to the music the whole time without having to take headphones off as you would before you start putting them back on to mix, etc. And that's because I like doing like a lot of like acapellas over the top, and I like just kind of bringing things in just proper randomly. So I'll just always keep. There might be a time where when I'm playing live, I might take one in ear out, because sometimes the delay from the actual decks to the front of house is like a millisecond behind. So I kind of like to listen what's going out front and see what people are doing, and then pop my in-ear back in and then start again. But yeah, it's just personal preference, really. I think it all stemmed from the band, and now it's gone. Now that I don't do any of the band stuff anymore, it's just incorporated over to like the DJ side of stuff.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because the fact that Layback Luke is doing it, he's one of the best, the most legendary DJs in the industry. So
he's so good.
I don't think you're putting a foot wrong. And I must say as well, probably in terms of like all the lads that sort of warm up for DJs around the country that I know and that I've met and that I've seen, I'd say you're possibly the most talented on the decks with all your different skills that you do and all these different. There's so many different tricks that you've constantly got going on up your sleeve. It's amazing.
I don't know how to take
that. I've been around some pretty talented guys, but you might be up there with the best, man. It's really
I appreciate that, mate. No, I mean, that's it's nice to hear, because there's, to me, like our group of DJ friends are all the people that have played like the Warehouse events together, and like me and you are going to be playing on the Mike Williams show whenever that happens. And like Owen Norton and Next Generation Noise and Lee Follen and all them lot, like we've got like a nice little group of people that all kind of like support each other and things like that. And some people are better at the producing side of things rather than the DJ side of things, and some people might be better at DJing than producing. But everyone kind of like supports each other really, really well. And I take a lot of inspo from Layback Luke, because he just, because especially on 4 decks, he's just an absolute monster. And I remember actually at Creamfields last year, I've seen him a couple of times, but I've got to say that his Creamfield set last year after Calvin Harris in that little Pepsi Max tent was mind blowing. Like I remember we were like, right, we'll go watch Layback Luke now, and everyone was like kind of coming past the tent from from the stage that Calvin Harris was playing on, and coming into this tent, I was like, this guy shouldn't be in this tent. He should be on a main stage. But I kind of appreciate that you get to see him in a smaller environment. And I've seen him a couple of times. He's been on the same lineups as, like, you know, the DLDK lineups in Victoria Warehouse. And he's just always, his sets are just always very interesting. He doesn't rarely play like the same sort of stuff all the time, does he?
No. I love him, man. I mean, I've loved him for quite a long time. I mean, I remember, you know, back in the day when you were younger, you'd sit at home and watch your Tomorrowland sets or whatever. And one of my favourite all-time Tomorrowland sets, I think, is him in 2013 at the Super You and Me stage.
Is that where they're all dressed up?
Yeah. That's it. And I think he's got like Batman outfit on or whatever. But it's like an hour and a half of just EDM banger after EDM banger, like 2012, 2013. It's just like, oh my god! And
like the good old days, like pogo stick and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Unreal, honestly. But yeah, the first thing I sort of wanted to start with is what was sort of your first musical influence in life? So maybe there was a song when you was, you know, a young lad or whatever, or what was the first thing in your mind that stands out in life musically? Could have been a song or a moment.
I got into dance music really late. Hold up, mate. I need to shut these blinds. These blinds are blinding me. There we go. Yeah, so I kind of got into dance music a little bit later than most people. I was into a lot of band music and a lot of playing in bands and stuff from like the age of 15 onwards. Got into dance and house music around, I think it was around 2013. So I was around like 21. So that's when I started first getting into like dance and house music, etc. And then I think the first song that got me into like dance and house music was Yetii. And I remember he was actually on a Creamfields lineup in 2013, and we went and saw him, and I was like, this guy's unbelievable. But at that time, I didn't want to do any DJing. I didn't even think about doing anything or making songs or producing or whatever. For me, that was just kind of, this is a super new environment with like new things that have not really been around before. And it was honestly, mate, it was mind blowing. And then kind of as time went on, more and more songs were coming out. Like I remember like Porter Robinson Language and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. Loved all that sort of stuff. Like really enjoyed that sort of early 2013 to 2016 progressive music. Mm-hmm. And I was like, right, okay, progressive house is definitely what I'm into at the minute. Mm. Let's try and pick up a pair of decks and try and play some progressive house music to people. And at that time, I was going into uni. I think this was in 2014. That was. So I just joined uni in Leeds and then picked up a pair of decks. And then honestly, from then onwards, mate, it was just kind of just playing as many flat parties, house parties as much as I could before I got any sort of gig. And that was kind of like the first musical taste of DJing to people, really. Like at a flat party, and people were like, "Oh, it's pretty good, this. Like, have you ever tried getting a gig anywhere?" I was like, "Not really. I'm not good enough, to be honest. I don't really. I've just picked up DJing as kind of like a hobby just through uni." Hmm. And then it just got progressively more and more busy. So people coming in with offers for like shows and residencies here and there and guest mixes, and now obviously streams online and all that sort of stuff. Mm. And it's just kind of gone from like playing a flat party to like 15, 20 people, to like going into like playing Victoria Warehouse and going to like Pasha in Poland and playing to like a full room there. And it's just mad.
Was crazy. That was, yeah.
Oh, mate, honestly, that Pasha show, mate, was mind blowing.
How did that come about?
So Josh, so Josh was working with a group called Culture Code from Birmingham. So, and he introduced me to like Dylan and Chris, and we got talking. And I'd not really met those guys before. And Josh was kind of like, "Oh, I've got a show for you. You'll be main support to Culture Code in Poland." And I was like, "What?" Yeah. He was like, "Yeah. So they're going to pay for our flights, hotel overnight stay, and then we'll fly back the next day." And I was like, "All right, this sounds mega."
Yeah.
Went there, flew over with the guys, met them there properly for the first time. Oh no, I played a previous show in Manchester actually with them. And that's how we got talking, sorry. And then yeah, flew over to Poland with them. And even for one night of just seeing how well like people get treated in the music industry, especially DJs, it is enough to make you think, right, I need to keep progressing and making music and playing all these shows and getting out to people, because it was just an unbelievable experience. And over there, like, the dance floor was full of like people who weren't on the phones at all. Everyone was just there for like a really good time and partying, and it was great to see, because you know, a lot of events now everyone's like on the phones and taking videos and stuff, and it's cool, but like it's not got that old school rave vibe that you used to go to when you were younger.
Yeah.
And they're just the heavier the better for them. Like I remember just dropping some stuff. I was like, these guys are going mental. I was like, what is going on?
Wow.
Great. Yeah, it was sick, mate.
So like, your first sort of getting off the ground with DJing was just sort of DJing to, you know, flatmates and housemates in uni then, was it?
Yeah, pretty much. It was it was DJing to flat parties every week, and I got a job doing like promotions for like clubs, you know, like selling tickets to like friends for nights out. And I remember them always being like, oh, well, if you throw a flat party, we'll supply the pre-party with drinks and stuff. You can sell tickets to them, and then you can all obviously come to the event for the night. And then if you want to throw an after party, we'll supply you with some drinks there as well. And that was kind of like the ticket into getting into like that sort of scene in Leeds. And then I remember there was a night called Lightbox in Manchester.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one guy who couldn't play that night. So one of the guys that I knew who was always on first, he was like, oh, well, we're looking for like a DJ to play like from 11:30 till 1. So it's like the heavier side, so like your progressive and house and all that sort of stuff. And he was like, I know you've not played a gig yet. Do you fancy playing? And it's at O2 Ritz. They used to hold them there every Saturday. And I was like, oh God, yeah, definitely. So I went and did that first one. And then after that, they pretty much wanted us on there pretty much like every Saturday from them onwards. And George Meehan, who obviously owns like JBM Music in Manchester, he was DJing a couple of times there as well. And he was obviously a two-piece back in the day, me and Jamie. Mm-hmm. And he'd seen us live on these events, and he was kind of like, I like the energy that you've got, and I like the sort of music that you play, and I like all the vocal, you know, all the vocal acapellas and then the drops that you're bringing in. Do you fancy doing a slot at Warehouse? And I was like, what?
Wow.
Yeah, and I can remember our first show was what was it? I think it was that Hardwell show.
Which one?
I've got a picture of the room, and you're on the front of room 2 when we're playing. And I can't remember which Hardwell show it was. It was...
That might have been 2018.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah. I swear I saw you before that though. There.
Yeah, we'd played like Don't Let Daddy Know and Life in Colour and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember us playing. Oh, was it a Hardwell show? Oh, I'm not too sure.
Because I remember you playing the Life in Colour show the year before. I'm certain.
Yeah, we'd been playing Victoria Warehouse from about, I think it was about 2016 or 2017 onwards.
Oh yes, yeah. You're talking about the lad that was sort of MCing.
Yeah, so Ben was on with me, and he was
yeah,
and he was obviously in that band that I was playing with at the time, and he was coming doing like kind of like the hyping, and we were just trying that sort of stuff out. And I've got a picture of the room, and the room's really full at room 2, and you're on the front with like a Hardwell t-shirt on, I think. I was like, "Go on, Mike."
I do remember that. I think that was that particular show. That was, I think that was 2018. Actually, no, that might have been 2017. Now that I think about it,
going way back.
Yeah,
might have been.
It was one of those. But obviously, you'd played at Victoria before that. Then you'd had the
yeah.
What was? Do you remember like the very first gig that you did there?
I think the very first one we did was. I think it was an earlier Don't Let Daddy Know show.
Right.
I think that was the first one that we played as a two-piece. and then we played a couple of those, and we played Life in Colour, and then Jamie moved over to Australia and New Zealand, went traveling for like a couple of years, and he's still over there now, and he actually plays as Yetii in Australia at a bar.
Oh, really?
So we've got Yetii over here,
Right.
but he's playing under he's playing under the same brand and the same page and stuff, but he's got the old. He doesn't use the new logo that we've recently released. He uses the old logo, but still plays under the same name and stuff. And I've said to him, I was like, listen, if you ever want to post on the Yetii page that you play in Australia, go for it. Like, you know, this was our thing that we started as a two-piece.
Mm-hmm.
So we always used to play those shows as a two-piece, and then as soon as he moved over, it just kind of became it. It was kind of like Next Gen when he used to play with I think his name was Alex, when they used to play as a two-piece.
Right.
And then he left, and then Next Gen became like he just went solo as well.
Kind of end up doing a Claptone thing where have you heard about that? Do you know the thing behind that? No. I'm almost certain from what I've heard. Hope I'm not exposing anything here, but I think Claptone is multiple people.
I've heard that.
Yeah. I've heard that in the background. I don't know whether it's true, because I've heard as well that he's been in multiple places
at the same time.
Yeah, and it's a bit like,
yeah, he's playing Ibiza at 11, but then in Hong Kong at 12, and I'm like, how are you getting there in an hour?
Yeah. Apparently he's a magician as well.
Well, with those white gloves on, I'd expect him to. Story as well. Apparently, you know Marla. Apparently, he's multiple people too.
You reckon?
Yeah, maybe. I know, we all know who he is. That Sebastian guy.
I don't know who he is.
Apparently, he used to be he used to be like a progressive house producer back in the day. Sebastian something, I can't remember what his name is. You can tell by the beard he's got underneath the balaclava that he always wears. But people have speculated that because he turns up at shows sometimes a bit fatter and a bit thinner. So I don't know who it is.
That's a good point, actually. I've never thought about it like that. But like when I think back to it now, like I think his last Ultra Miami set that he did, like the big one he's got on YouTube.
Yeah.
He was like a thinner guy then. Whereas like the stuff that he's done with DJ Snake, it's a bit of a stockier bloke, like a bigger build.
Yeah, exactly. Whether he's eating a ton of shit on tour or whatever he's doing, it's just, you know. Well,
good shout. I've never even thought about that.
Yeah, so apparently Marla's a couple of people. I'm not too sure. Because he's obviously had a massively busier schedule as well since joining with like Charmy and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I wonder if Charmy's maybe just a mask and the suit. It's some bloke pulled it off after each. They've just made a 3D print of another guy.
Probably that. I love them. Them two are great.
Oh,
Marla and Charmy.
I fell in love with them sort of early last year, probably about January, February. But the problem was I fell in love with them too late because, of course, I was then going to go and see them live at like shows and stuff. And then, of course, no shows happened. But I was like, like I found them too late because I thankfully I've seen both of them. I've seen Marla at Creamfields 2019. That was class. And then Charmy was playing not the Horizon, the Arc stage behind Marla, like if you go at the back. And I caught about 10, 15 minutes of that. And I was like, this is good. But I didn't really properly stop by and actually listen to it. It was only later on. And like when I'm at home now or when I'm out in the car driving or whatever, I'd bang on the Charmy Marla Tomorrowland sets and the Charmy sets at Ultra. Oh. And I can't get enough of them. And I'm like I remember, like my two Tomorrowlands I went to was 2018 and 19. And they both of them, their sets at Tomorrowland was weekend 2 of 18 and 19 when I was there. But I just didn't really know about them. And I regret so much not going to see them. I regret.
They are mind-blowing live. Together, equally as good. Solo, exactly like you said, that Marla set was in the what was the stage called with all the with all like the crate, like the metal craters. I can't remember what the stage was called, But Marla was on quite early, wasn't he? He was on like 4 or 5ish in the afternoon.
Which one are you talking about? Is Tomorrowland or Ultra?
Last year at Creamfield. The 20,
Oh, yeah, he was
the
in
2019 one, sorry.
Generator, yeah.
Yeah, so he was on in the Generator, and then Charmy was on like 8 p.m. on like Horizon or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we caught both of them sets. Charmy sat on that main stage. Do you know what? It wasn't as busy as it should have been, but it was good because we got in right at the front, just in front of the front of house desk, like towards like the front back, and there was just so much room to dance, and it sounded so good. And I'm glad it wasn't that busy because we kind of got nearer to seeing him like right near the front.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember flying over to ADE to see Charmy and Marla at Melkweg.
Right.
I think that was 2018, and them two were like mind blowing. And on that lineup there was like Brohug, Chris Lorenzo.
I remember, yeah. I remember.
Yeah, Charmy and Marla headlining. Who else was there? I think Mercer was there, and it was just what a gig that was. So good, mate. Honestly,
I think one of the biggest regrets I have is in 2018, I think it was. There was like a double headliner thing because there was obviously they do the Steelyard in Liverpool, but they've done Steelyard in London a few times now. Like I think 2019 they did Prids the one day and then Polcox the other day.
yeah,
that didn't interest me either of them. But what did was the previous year, both. So the Saturday, I think it was Saturday, Sunday they do it. The Saturday night was Above and Beyond and like all Andrew beats, and I'm in love with all that. So I massively regret missing that. But then even worse, on the Sunday it was Tiesto, Charmy Marla, I think like Steve Angelo. There was a few others, and it was like a ridiculous lineup. And now I regret it so bad.
I mean, Steve Angelo in himself is just like enough to go and all the way down to London and see someone live. But that sort of lineup, mate, is ridiculous.
It's stupid. I was just looking at it like,
oh god,
it was massive regret. This is a conversation I had with someone the other day. I wonder what your opinion is on it. Because mine's certainly made up in that I think the Swedish House Mafia guys are better separated.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Because I seen Steve Angelo for the first time at Don't Let Daddy Know in Leeds.
Yeah.
Remember that one that they had the sports arena? And that was unbelievable. But I think I even slightly prefer Axwell and Grosso and just the energy that they have at theirs.
Yeah. I honestly, mate, I totally agree. I think Axwell and Grosso by themselves are mind blowing, and Steve Angelo live. I remember seeing him at various different places, and he's just blew my mind. I've luckily been to Tomorrowland in 2017 when it was the Amoricon stage. You know, the circus theme that they did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that was my first year going to Tomorrowland, and I remember seeing them both separately over the weekend on the main stage, and I was like, these guys separate are too good. Like, I think in Swedish House Mafia, it was good at Creamfields when they headlined, but they're just playing the same sort of stuff that they just played in the solo sets, and it was kind of like I wanted something a little bit different to see what they do. But apart from that, I think separately, I think the miles better off. Musically, producing, I think together they're really, really good.
Because I was going to say, didn't they mainly just for that set just play all the classics?
Yeah, they opened with a new song that I don't know if you've heard it. It's called "It Gets Better."
Yeah, I've heard things about it.
Yeah, so that was probably the newest song that they opened with, and it was mint. Hearing that for the first time through those speakers, I was like, okay,
yeah.
This is going well. And then they played a couple of stuff that Axwell and Grosso always play, like the heavier sort of bass house stuff, and then they just went into like the classics, and it's like, well, we've already seen this like when you've been separate. But I guess at the same time, it was just meant to see all three of them anyway together, which was good.
Yeah, I mean, they was on at the same time as Tiesto over on the other stage. For me, I couldn't go away from Tiesto. Like, Tiesto is the king for me. Like, I think everybody's got sort of like that guy
Yeah.
A lot of people in the scene, it's Armin, but for me, it's Tiesto.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Tiesto will always be that guy. I wanted to go on then and say a little bit interesting. I wonder if you've ever had a situation in a gig, or is there a particular time in your mind where you've been on stage playing a gig? It could be a big gig, small gig, where something has gone really wrong and you're like, oh shit. Like
Oh.
maybe the electricity's cut out.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you've mixed in the wrong track, or you've screwed up something, or something's happened. Has anything like that ever happened?
Oh yeah, there's been a couple of times. One time when I was when I had a residency at a place called Fifth Ave in Manchester. It was like Freshers Week. It was like main room, pretty full, and I was playing on an RX at the time, my RX unit, and I was going through their mixer, through their DGM, and I thought, oh yeah, you know what, like, because we've got some extra decks, I'll just set up another CDJ at the side of that, just in case my unit decides to to pack in. Well, it did. It turned itself off mid-set, and everyone kind of like looked at the stage. I was like, oh shit.
Oh Jesus!
So I was like, right, okay. So I'm trying to switch the unit back on. The speakers I think have been that loud and that powerful that they've blown
Oh,
my control.
no!
They've blown my RX up, and I'm like, fuck me, this is mad. So I take me spare USB out, and I'm like, right, pop that in the CDJ. And luckily for me, there was a lot of lads in at the time who were just like doing football chants. So it wasn't really. So they were just doing like some Leeds chants or something. I'm like, yeah, keep doing that while I just sort this shit out. So they're all singing in this main room, and all the girls like, get the music back on, and I'm like, I'm fucking trying. So I'm there plugging the USB in. CDJ turns on. Put like Freed from Desire on just because it'll just get everybody going.
Yeah.
There we go, we saved the day. And like, I had to set up the other CDJ while that song was playing. So I set that up, put all the cables in the back, fucking threw my RX on the floor. I was like, that's a piece of shit. Don't need that again. So yeah, so that blew my RX up. I've still not got it fixed because I just immediately got an RX2 like the day after.
Oh God.
So yeah, so that blew that up. That's still in the attic here, actually, and I'm thinking I might just sell it because it's just been here for ages. So I bought an RX2, and then I remember playing. Oh, I can't remember whether it was another residency or a big gig, but just usual shit where I'd forgot to actually set the button where, you know, if you do select a song to play on that deck, it'll ask you if you want to do it first.
Okay.
Especially on the RX2, you can click the load button and it'll say, oh yeah, do you want to select this tune while the tune's already playing on that deck?
Right.
Well, I'd not set that up, and I think we just obviously being so excited.
You mean like as a safety kind of thing?
Yeah, so it stops that tune loading onto that one while it's still playing. Yeah, there's been times where I've fucking turned tunes off by accident and brought wrong songs on and been at like 128 and I brought the other song in at like 400 BPM because I've not actually. It just sounds horrendous, and I'm like, oh god, I suck at this. Been loads of little things like that. But I guess at the same time, if those things don't happen, then you never really. It just makes you better, really. It just makes you better to deal with that situation because you're under pressure then. Because you're kind of like, oh fuck, I wish I didn't do that.
I'll tell you what, it builds character for
100%.
you when you sort of go forward then, because you're like, okay, you know, you're always in the back of your mind worrying about that first time if you've not had it before where something could go massively wrong. I don't know if you heard the story of when it happened to me, when I had something massive.
No, go on. I'm excited.
Well, so I'll make this the last time I go into it, unless someone asks me specifically, because yeah, it isn't me who fucked up. I will put my hands up if ever I screw up, but I'm not taking the blame on this one. So basically, let's see. So this would have been the big gig for me at Ministry, where I was playing the main room. So I've been given this gig. You know, I mean, I'll give you a quick timeline so you can kind of understand. So in December of 2018, I learnt to DJ. So one of my mates taught me how to DJ over the space of a couple of days. Came back home with every sort of thing that I'd learnt, and immediately started practicing on these, and then sort of fine-tuned it all. And then it just so happened that 4 months, well, no, it wasn't even that. It was about 3 months later. I think it was about February time, when I was at a rave in Ministry going to see someone play. I'm always just chatty, you know, just chatting to everybody and just having a laugh, as I always do. And I ended up just chatting to this guy, who then turned to me and said, would you like to support W&W in April? And I was like, this is, bearing in mind, this is 3 months into me learning to DJ. I was like,
so that was your first proper gig?
yes.
W&W?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So fair enough, it weren't the main room before them or after them, but you know, to be on the same lineup as these guys that I've idolized for years is unreal. I mean, one of the coolest things about that for me as well, that really sort of is special for me, is my first ever rave was on the 29th of April 2016 at Ministry, seeing W&W. And my first ever gig was at the 29th of April 2019, supporting W&W in Ministry. So 3 years to the day, after seeing them at my first ever rave, I was then supporting them in the same place. And it was just like, what are the odds that they were playing that place at that time, and it happened to be that. But yeah, anyway, so that was my first gig at the end of April. And then I did quite well, so they invited me back, and I did a flurry of gigs through the year. Then I think I was doing like a couple each month, and then sort of. I'll go into that one at another time, but I weren't able to make a gig in September. In short, basically had an accident with my car. And so I was on the hard shoulder at the motorway of the M40 between Birmingham and London, and I had to call the guy and say to him, you know, I've had a bit of a bad time here, and it killed me, man, because like, I mean, you know how important these things are to us. I don't want to miss a single opportunity that I get, and I thought I'd really fucking balls it up, and I just thought, like, okay, I've now got a car that's totaled, like it's worth nothing from, you know, what I bought it for. And I've also got to break the news that I'm not going to be there to the promoter. And then I thought, so I've got that, and then I've also lost my, you know, my residency there at Ministry. But luckily enough, the guy said, just, you know, just get home and take care of yourself. And then on the night, thankfully, the guy turned to me, and he'd been happy with what he'd seen from all my previous gigs, and he just turned to me and said, would you like to play the main room in November? And that just blew my mind. I was like, what? So luckily it was pretty cool as well, because he had this particular lad, he had the headline spot, because he's a big like DJ in the Chinese community and the Asian community. And so he played, the Italian lad warmed up. He played like, I think it was 11 till 12:30. Then this Chinese lad played 12:30 till 2, and then I played 2 till 4. So I kind of played like a co-headline spot, like that kind of time. And so I was like, how is this happening? It's unreal. But yeah, so I'd gone from less than a year. You know, in the December I learned to DJ, and then in the November following, 11 months later, I was playing a headline spot in the main room. So it's like a me moment. But yeah, basically, reason I tell you all of that is just to give you a bit of a backstory, how important this was for me as a gig. And so, of course, it's the worst gig to have something go wrong. And so it basically, the lad was finishing up before me. He played his last track, and then I think he sort of ended it, and he got on the mic and was just saying thanks for everyone coming and whatnot. and I was, you know, chucking my USB in, and then as he finished talking, I started playing my first track, bam, and my first track was Kashmir, Dallas K Burn. So I thought, okay, cool. So got the track playing. I get everybody clapping to get everybody sort of getting in the mood for my set now. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, for whatever reason, the track just starts doing a 4-beat loop. I was like, what's going on here? I was like, hang on, there's something really wrong here, because I went da 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 da. I was like, yeah, the beat slightly changes. It usually goes up a bit because it's building up, and I'm not hearing that. I'm just hearing the same 4 beats. I was like, so I looked down, and the what do you call it? The CDJ kind of like locked. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I quickly noticed that which used to be there a few seconds ago was my USB, wasn't there anymore. And what had happened, he took out my USB thinking it was his, and left his USB in. So then that caused my track to just do a 4-beat loop. This is my opening track at my biggest gig. I've got, you know, it was almost a sold out night. So it was like, what, the best part of 1,800, 1,900 people in front of me. And they're all looking at me, and I'm like, ah! So I then noticed that my USB wasn't in there. So I was just, there's so many things I've got to do now. I've got to then scream for people, because he's gone into the backstage area to grab a drink with his USB. So I'm screaming at the tech guy next to me, get my fucking USB. So he's sprinting off after him. I've then, whilst getting that sorted, I've then got to go into his USB, pick a track, upload it, get it, you know, in time with this. And I didn't have a clue. Like, I don't know if like we're all different in terms of how we organize our folders, but I'm quite meticulous, and like, I have like big room, electro, progressive, deep house, bass house, hard stuff. And I sort of really, you know, really sort of categorize everything. Whereas his was just like two folders that were, I don't even think they were named. It was just like unnamed and then like rename or whatever. It weren't even that. I was like, and I clicked on it, and the only thing I could find was a frigging Alesso, If I Lose Myself, the acapella. I was like, so I clicked on it. I started playing it, and this acapella, it wasn't purely just the acapella. Like, there was a little bit of music behind it, but it wasn't the actual track. It was just almost like a piano behind it. And I could have died it probably only lasted about a minute between it going wrong to me getting like my track in. But the tech guy comes back, he chucks the USB at me. I then have to plug it in. I've now lost my Kashmir Dallas K opening track, so I've got to go and find something else. So I just go, okay, big room, first track, bang. Then I got to get it in time with this one, and then get it mixed in, and then absolutely.
Honestly, mate,
horrible.
Emergency loop is the scariest thing in the world. Wow.
That couldn't have been a worse point. Bearing in mind as well, until that point, the gigs that I've been playing at Ministry, I was playing to, 100, maybe 150 people at most in the small side room. So then I've gone from that to then I'm nervous as hell because I've got, you know, the best part of 2,000 people stood in front of me in the main room.
Yeah.
This is so important to me. This is like my life is built up to this point. And then that happened. So I was like, I could have died.
I'll tell you what, like, it's exactly what you're saying. So, especially on big gigs, like, things that go wrong are not actually your fault. So it could be someone who's messed around with the CDJ before you or messed around with the mixer. Whether it can be, and a lot of people, when they start DJing, when they play these sort of gigs and there's like 7 or 8 people maybe before you, or there's a couple of people on before you, everyone has a personal preference of how they mix on the mixer and mix on the CDJ. So they might mess around with like different buttons. So when you come to it, you're kind of like, oh, why can't I hear the master coming through that's going to mix in the next track with this? Why can I only hear the song in my headphones that's mixing that track. I want to hear this and that. And then, the filters are not working for echo, and someone's obviously at the bottom of the fader messed around with the little button that takes off the filter. So all these things, when you first start, people messing around with decks before you. You might be used to playing a controller, and then you come on a CDJ 2000 and the jog wheel's dead sticky, and you don't know what the vinyl button does, but you press that and it starts moving it again. Nobody tells you any of this shit. You've got to fucking learn it all yourself. And it's like, this guy's messed this fucking deck up, and now I can't play. Or he's fucking took my USB out, I'm fucked. What is going on? And nobody tells you this stuff, do they? Like,
it's fucking, oh my God.
Mad.
I could have died. I really could have, like, Jesus Christ. Bearing in mind, like, I'm doing all these different things. Like, I'll find it somewhere, and one day I'll put it out when, you know, maybe I don't feel so humiliated by it. But I've got the recording somewhere, because, of course, I recorded my
I'd love to see that, mate. I'd love to see your face.
It's terrible. Well, you hear the burn track coming in, and then all of a sudden, it just goes into that loop, and I'm just freak out. And obviously, I don't know if you've seen it on my YouTube, but I've got I filmed that whole set because I've got a GoPro sort of sat on the side filming me and like the what do you call it behind me, my visuals. And so I recorded like the full set from start to finish. So I've got that in, but I edited it out. But I've still got that somewhere. I'll probably put it out one day.
Hey, please pull that up.
The worst feeling in the world.
Oh,
it was horrible. I mean,
were your USBs like exactly the same? Is that why you took it out?
No, they weren't. Like I'm sure his was like one of those, you know, really short, like stubby ones where you literally, it's almost literally just like the metal piece, and then there's like a plastic at the top of it, like one of those mini ones. I'm sure it was like one of them. And mine's like a pretty big long SanDisk one. But even it's not hard to understand. Okay, that track is playing. It's lit up. See the waveform. It's moving along.
Or just be like, Riot, what deck and what USB is playing on that? And then that's all he had to say to you is like, which deck are you playing on? Oh, he's like, all right, if I take my USB out now, just in case you were mixing in a song from his last tune that was playing on his. And that's another thing they don't tell you when changeover times when you're DJing is it's got to be so on the point on it. And if someone, like you said, takes out your USB, your set's kind of, well, not ruined, but it's not gone as well as you thought it would be at the beginning.
As they say, you know, start as you mean to go on. Well, my start went
get it back,
up, so it was like, oh.
Did you get your mojo back?
Yeah. Thankfully, Christ knows how. It really messed with my head initially because I was just like you can imagine, like I've got all these people in front of me, then I've got the photographer to my side looking at me like, what the fuck's going on? I've got the tech guy looking at me like, what have you done? And I'm like, my USB's gone.
He stole my USB.
And the problem is, I've never experienced that before because, funny enough, when I practice at home or when I played other gigs, I don't just pull my USB out mid-track. I've not done it as an experiment at home. Let's see what happens when I do this.
Not only does it do that, but it actually messes up your folder. It can delete songs and folders just randomly because your files might get corrupted. So imagine if you did that and all your file, and you couldn't even go back into the files of the set that you were going to play. I'd be fuming. He wouldn't be alive. Let's say that. A fucking CDJ wrapped around his head. Tell you, mate, not happening. Don't corrupt files like that.
It was. Oh God, words can't explain, but. You've probably been, like you say, you've been in similar situations, and you know it'll probably happen again. These things happen to the best of them. You know, you've seen, you know, the compilations online of Martin Garrix dropping his headphones on the CDJ, or Afro Jack, something going wrong where he's mixed in or whatever. But the thing that bugs me about that more than anything is, it wasn't my fault. It was at my biggest gig, and it's like, but it is what it is. it didn't ruin the set. I managed to carry on and
Yeah,
have the best time of my life. So, but but
yeah.
that then comes on to that was for me obviously my favorite gig by far that I've played so far. What has been your favorite gig, like your standout gig? Maybe there's been a particular moment in a set that you've played over the years that has just stood out to you more than anything. It could be a particular track where the crowd has just gone nuts for it and it's always stood out to you.
There's, I think the set is when it was one of the earlier ones we did. I think it was a DLDK show, and it was when me and Jamie were still DJing as a two-piece. And I think it was the exact same gig of the picture I've got of you at the front. So he was mixing, and I'd got on top of the one of the monitor wedges at the side, and I'd taken a picture. And I've never seen that room 2, because you know how far back room 2 goes, don't you? It's quite a long room, isn't it?
Huge, yeah.
It's dead short, but it's dead long. Reminds me a little bit of Printworks in London, where it's just gone for miles and miles.
Yeah.
So I'd taken a picture, and I didn't actually realise how far back that went.
Right.
So that one was the first one for me that was just a standout gig, and then the next one after that was I think it was another. Those don't let Daddy know shows are just always sold out. Like and people don't just want to stay in the main room for those. They want to kind of go between the rooms. And there was another gig that that when it was me and Ben, when Ben was hyping, and I remember just taking my phone out, playing. I've got this really good mashup of Turn It Around Dub Vision with like the Swedish House Mafia a cappella over the top of it. Don't You Worry Child. And that was always our ending. I still play it now in the streams online. And that was always the ending song. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to get up and I'm going to film the crowd. And I just remember just turning it down on the filter and just everybody singing it. And I'm like, this is min. And I'm just stood on the DJ table, just recording everyone. And then when it drops in, all the lighting guy at the side of me was like, "You ready?" I was like, "Fucking yeah, too right." All the strobes start coming in. I'm just like, "This is fucking min." So good.
Oh man.
Yeah. So either that Victoria Warehouse show or the first time that I flew over to Poland, because I didn't have an idea of what that was going to be like. We'd sorted all the visuals out. We'd sorted all the intro track out, and the room after Culture Code was just still super busy. So I was kind of like, right, okay. And because we're on a later set, I play quite heavier stuff than Culture Code. So I was like, right, I can go in a little bit more here. I can start playing like the really heavy, like bass house and progressive sort of stuff. And the crowd there was just mind blowing, mate. Like it was just, yeah. Those shows really are kind of the standout ones where you think, oh, this is why I got into not even I got into DJing to be famous or to the fame, just to make people happy in a room and just enjoy the sort of music you're playing. It's like you when you're playing the main room at Ministry, you're just playing all those songs that make you feel good and you know are going to make them like lose their mind at the same time. That's the main reason really, I think, as well.
That's the ultimate reason why I do it, is just when you drop a track, like one of my favorite things is to do that. So, get either a progressive banger or a big room banger with like a proper known a cappella. And you play the two together and you get everyone singing and clapping to it. And then all of a sudden you get the thunder just slaps you in the face of the heavy EDM track or progressive track. And there's just no better feeling in the world. There really isn't. Like, you just look at just loads of people in front of you, just happy as can be, just going wild. I literally every time I've been in that moment, even when I played the other gigs, and you look around the room, you just see all these smiling faces. You just think, this is what life's for.
Yeah, honestly, it's so good. Yeah. So those are like the standout moments, really. And I think, and I'm into all types of genre of house, like tech and all that sort of stuff, but I just don't feel like there's obviously a big scene at the minute with like techno and tech house DJs, and it's cool. I love that sort of stuff, but at the same time, I just don't get the same buzz from a crowd playing that sort of stuff than I do playing the bass house and the progressive and the you know, the well-known vocals, like you say. I just don't think that'll ever. And I think progressive is still absolutely massive at the minute. It always will be.
Mm.
But I just don't get the same buzz of like techno and tech house music than like, you know, like the big room and the progressive bass house and all that sort of stuff.
Well, I think there's for me at least there's two sort of modes that I'd be in for DJing. Like I had planned to last year, and you know these plans will just carry on whenever everything reopens and goes back to whatever normality. Like obviously my what I play at gigs is pretty much, you know, first of all big room progressive electro with maybe a bit of hardstyle in there. But I'd love to, because I'm into like all the sort of groovy tribal stuff as well. That I don't know if you've heard on Danik's funk recording label, like all the Sunnery James Ryan Marciano, Kryder sort of groove tribal stuff. Oh my god,
that's sick.
And I literally, I'm just going to fill up like I've already got a folder prepped, but I'll, you know, top it up or whatever. I'm just going to go around pubs all around my local where I live, because I've got like I sort of live half in the town, half in the countryside, and we've just got tons of country pubs. And I've already chatted to them, and I had planned to, you know, through the summer, just play gigs there, just kind of be at the side of the beer garden, and, you know, just be playing, you know, those sort of groovy tribal stuff that people can just get up and have a good boogie to.
Yeah.
Because I tell you what, man, some of that stuff just to play as well, it's nice, it's refreshing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Love that.
Yeah, I do like the Kryder, DOD, Sunnery James, Ryan Marciano sort of stuff. It's just like it's like funky progressive in it, really.
Yeah. Well, I love like the Brazilian carnival tribal
stuff.
Yeah.
Taking your top off and just swinging it about the side of the
some maracas, baby.
Yeah, I love that.
But yeah,
it's a good shout.
Sorry, go on.
It's a good shout that doing, especially like the way everything is at the minute. I think obviously it'll be like the pubs and everything will reopen first, so I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's something that I really want to get into as well. I'm going to ask you as well, what is, if you could sort of give one piece of advice to upcoming DJs, maybe guys that are, you know, really looking to get into the Victoria Warehouse, the Ministry, you know, the local big club, what's the one thing you'd say to them?
Just don't be a dick. Just be nice. Like, the thing is with a lot of, like, especially during all this, I get that everybody's, you know, it's been a great time to see people kind of pick up new things, whether it's, you know, it's a new hobby or a new job or whatever. And I know that a lot of people have picked up DJing. And I'm always up for giving advice, because at the end of the day, we're not the biggest guys in the world by any means, but we've been playing a few years now, playing gigs and things like that. So when people come to me and say, oh yeah, what in-ears do you use, or you know, what's gig advice, like I love doing that, because when we first started out, there wasn't really that much information that people could give you. Like if you were to get a show at Victoria Warehouse, everybody would be kind of like, they wouldn't tell you like how to play, how to DJ, or how to you know, how to sell tickets and all that sort of things. And you kind of had to do everything yourself and kind of learn on the beat, really. And I think with a lot of up and coming DJs now, I think a lot of people get like, it sounds really cheesy, but they get like too big for the boots really early. But like, there's a couple of people that I know who have just started doing it, and they're always asking for advice. And I think the best thing is like, just don't be afraid to ask people, you know, how to get better, and how to, you know, how to approach like venues and promoters and get more gigs and things like that. I think just be a really, really nice person, because I know that a lot of people, once they start getting these gigs, they get really big-headed, and then they think that they're better than everybody else. And that's another thing that really, really annoys me in the music industry, is like, as soon as people get a little bit of fame, they think they're just better than everyone. And this is spating back to support slots that I've done with like the band and all that sort of stuff. Like, we've done some really, really, really good stuff, but I'm always, when I was teaching drums, I was always like, you know, I didn't have anybody give me advice on how to, how to do a sound check or how to do a line check or pack down all my drums and all that sort of stuff. And it's just one of those. It's just be a nice person and just ask for advice and don't be afraid to ask people for something if you don't know, really. So
that's a really good shout, because like I say, I think you're right there. I think a lot of guys, they can get some success quickly, and they may get to the top of the bill of their local club, or they may get into like a pretty reputable club somewhere. And like you say, they do get too big for their boots, but they also get into a situation where they get into a bit of a rut where they feel so good about where they are that they don't almost push themselves to go any further.
And
I agree. You end up seeing those people later on, having arguments with people who have been able to climb the ladder and saying, I should have been there or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, but a lot of people carry on progressing rather than just going, look at me, I'm the big bollocks of the room or whatever.
Exactly. And another thing that plays up to this is obviously social media. Social media can be so toxic. And you could look at someone's video and be like, oh, they've got 500 more views than my DJ video. Why is that? I'm better than them. And that's where a lot of people start not supporting each other. I made a pact when I started playing. I was like, whoever I end up meeting, like for instance, like yourself, Next Gen, Lee, and all of them sort of guys, whatever you guys release, I will always like your video. I'll always comment on how good it looks and how good it sounds. I'll always share it, whether it's in a story or on Facebook or whatever. And that's kind of how like you build up like a little bit of a supporting community. Because I know there's a lot of people out there that don't support each other's videos and don't like, but then they ask for you to like their sort of stuff.
Oh mate, honestly.
And that really annoys me. And it's kind of like, well, you don't get support if you don't support other people.
No.
And I just a like and a comment goes a long way. It only takes a few seconds, and especially like people who are trying to make a name for themselves and things like that. Like, and I'm at the end of the day, I'm 30 I'm 30 this July, and I'm kind of like,
sorry, I've got to stop you on that. That is fucking unreal. Like, I remember you about an hour ago, you sent over your email to me, and I read the email address that you sent me, and 91 was in there, and I thought, that can't be right.
Yeah.
I was like, that can't be a thing. That's clearly like a typo or whatever.
29, bro, I'm getting old.
That's ridiculous. Like, I got to be honest, mate. I think we should swap emails, because you look like the one born in 98. I look like the one born in 91. It's unreal. That's crazy, man. I was like, surely he's like 24, 25.
No, yeah, 30, mate. And this is another thing. It's kind of like, now that I'm nearly 30, I know for a fact that I'm never going to get to the level where I've wanted to, because I am getting a little bit older. But I've had a long run of...
I disagree. You can get them. I'm telling you now, right, like I said to you, we've all got different things that really stand out about us. Whether it be, like, for example, look at Kieran and Lee, they've got that #1 track. They've got some absolute bangers coming out. So people will go to their shows to see them because they make great music. I sort of try to put out there, my selling point is just that I go fucking crazy on stage because I'm obsessed with the stuff that I play. Like I'm mad on EDM. It's everything to me. I think you've got the selling point where you are about as talented as I've seen behind the decks.
I appreciate that.
You're more talented than most of the headliners in terms of actually, doing different transitions, doing different effects, slipping this, slipping that. You're incredibly talented, and you've got something that a lot of people haven't got, in the sense that you can do all of these different things. So never ever sort of
it's gonna make me well up.
Yeah, never say that you're out of that, because you've obviously got a hell of a lot of experience, because you've been doing this for a few years now, and you've got a lot of experiences where you've learned. But yeah, you're incredibly talented, and it needs to be said to you, mate, because you need to keep your head up high and keep pushing on. Not just have the side room to don't let daddy know, but you should be more than, you know, looking at getting into the main room of Victoria Warehouse, of ministry, of playing international shows, because you're a really talented guy.
Cheers, man. No, I appreciate that.
It's a shame because, like you just sort of mentioned earlier, I do think it's sadly an industry where I think, in my experience personally, anyway, I've had you know, mates, that'll sort of, that'll sort of, you know, they, you know, they'll go and meet you for a pint or whatever, or for some food or whatever, and you think they're mates, and you know, you get along with them, but then in reality, like some of them, and I've cut them out of my life now because it was just fucking poison to me. But they never ever celebrated any of the gigs that I got, because a lot of the time they might have done a bit of DJing themselves and it's not gone anywhere. Because you haven't fucking pushed yourself, you haven't put in the hours, you haven't, you know, really gone ahead and fully dedicated to it. So then you feel the need to shit on me and me getting somewhere because you haven't. I think it's just the crappiest mentality ever.
Mate, you've knocked it straight on the head there. It is a lot of. It's like you said. As soon as people start getting in with like different promoters and they're playing, you know, shows in Amsterdam and all that sort of stuff, and once you see that, you kind of think, oh, they're doing all right then, and then it's kind of like, but as soon as you start doing better than them or better than someone else, they find it as kind of like a competition. And at the end of the day, we're all in this industry to A, support each other, which is the biggest thing, B, to have a really, really good time doing it, and not fucking like not put pressure on yourself to be like someone else. Like, everyone's got their own style of mixing, everyone's got their own style of different songs that they play. And that should be the main thing. Just them two things alone is exactly why you kind of get into this, and you do support each other, and you do like each other's videos and comment, that's fucking sick, And then as soon as people don't start doing that, and as soon as you just let them out of your life, like you said, you feel so much better, because you feel like the actual people that you're surrounded by, whether it's friends and family, they're always there. They'll always support you. You know, whether it's like a live stream tonight at 10 o'clock, there'll be people that will be like, oh yeah, can't wait to tune in and hear some good songs and stuff like that. Whereas they'd be like, oh, I've got fucking 500 viewers and all that sort of shit. Like, don't want to support him because they're doing better than us. And it's kind of like, it's just such a stupid mentality, and it's annoying.
It's embarrassing, man. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. Like, there's nothing taking away from yourself in giving props to someone else. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people, if they see you doing well, they're going to return the favor. Because
exactly.
You know, not only, I mean, me personally, I will never ever give someone a compliment if I don't mean it. So I won't just say, "Oh, you know, you look good today," if I really genuinely don't think it, because it's just pointless doing it. It's like,
oh yeah,
if I do that, then to somebody who I actually think is looking amazing today and's really made an effort, that's going to be a pointless thing, because it's like, well, I just said it's someone that I don't actually believe. So it's the same thing where, you know, I have a lot of friends in the industry that are producers, and at the end of the day, I'm not going to like every single track that every single one of them makes. So I'm not going to bullshit them and say, oh, you know, I'm going to put this out there and call it the best track ever. But it just so happens that, like, you know, different guys from all around the country that I'm mates with, they will release stuff and I will listen to it. And, you know, a lot of the time I do end up liking it. And I'll you know, I'll like, comment, share, and do all the good stuff, of course, because at the end of the day, like you say, it is a really tough industry to break into. There's no manual. It's not like you can go to university and then, you know, at the end of it, here's your certificate. Now you can, you know, go and get a job DJing or whatever. There's no sort of beaten path way of doing it. And so, sometimes people can feel a bit lost, but the worst thing to do is to then go and take that out on other people. Like, exactly. I had this lad that I cut out of my life because he was a local DJ in the local town, and he'd been a resident at this club on Saturday nights for like 5 years. But what it was just like you know, like a Pop World type place.
Oh yeah.
like a fever kind of thing. And so I think it's like a upstairs downstairs, and he played the downstairs room, and I think it was like 100 capacity, maybe 80, something like that. But he was miserable in it because he was having to play the same track list every weekend
Oh,
for all year, and
oh,
he was massively into like trap and dubstep and all these different things, and you could see that he was pretty miserable, and eventually he packed it in. But
yeah.
because I'd learned to DJ quickly, and then got into ministry and started playing there, he didn't like that. So he never, and bearing in mind, like, you know, I was putting him up on social medias, and like he was aware that it was happening. It wasn't like he was oblivious to it going on. Like, this was like one of my best mates at this point, kind of thing. Like, we were hanging out on a weekly basis, and he wouldn't say a word to me when we meet up. Like, I weren't going to say, "Oh, look at me," you know, I've look at this, I've got
Yeah.
big gigs or whatever. But when you see your mates doing well and you see someone online, you're going to say in person, "Wow, that's amazing!" Like, you know, well done.
Yeah.
Just never said a word to me, and it got to the point where I had the big gig in ministry, and that was like about as big as you can get in terms of, like, you know, maybe besides Creamfields in this country. And for me, it just meant so much because, like, I did shit in school. Like, I didn't have anything coming out of school, so I didn't really have anything to be proud of there. And so music was the only thing that I've fully dedicated myself to in life. And to get that meant the world to me. And
Cool.
it just pissed me off that it just left a bitter taste in my mouth. I thought, you know, fuck this. Like, I mean, he'd done it before. It's shown signs before where a few years, oh, fuck me, it's probably like 5 years ago now, before Ollie James blew up, he was like at a similar level to Ollie James with like producing tracks and stuff, and they'd kind of exchanged emails, and he sent over some ideas to Ollie James, and Ollie James was like, so basically, I just want to take this track and make it big room. And this lad was like, oh, no, I want to do all these different styles. I want to do house. I want to do charty stuff. And Ollie James was like, no, I want to make it into a big room track. I'm a big room producer. And of course, eventually, a couple of years later, he's been big now for at least a few years. He started slagging off Ollie James. Oh, he's only a big room producer. He can't do this. He can't do that. Like, well, he's clearly a pretty good fucking big room producer with all the success that he's got, and you're still here in your parents' garage. It's like, don't shit on him. He's doing incredibly well for himself. Like, what are you on about? Oh, all he can produce is big room. He does it pretty fucking well, actually.
Yeah.
You find Hardwell, Tiesto, all the lads who are supporting him agree. It's just
Honestly, like, it's a great industry to be in, and you meet new people like yourself and everybody that we've met along the way. But there's also a lot of people who don't want you to do well. And that's how it is. And once they see you getting those likes on Instagram and getting those views and all that sort of stuff, they just stop supporting you. And that's fine, because at the end of the day, they're shit and you're doing well. So, and they're the sort of people who think that they're better than everybody. And it just goes to show it's always been like that. It's nothing, honestly, mate. It's a bit sad sometimes, isn't it? Really,
it's pathetic. It's like, you miserable loser. Like, just go back to your cave. You know what I mean? It's like, if you haven't got anything good to say, just don't say it at all. Like, you know.
Honestly, just being a nice person. That's all I can say. It is just being to, and if you're not nice, then just put on a nice face and just I don't get it. I honestly don't get it.
It's like some secret recipe that we hold where it's like, you know, just go into the venue, the club or whatever, just be nice to everybody.
Yeah.
It'll be paid back to you. It's not hard. No, I don't know.
Honestly.
But next thing I was going to ask you, obviously, a lot of people, you know, as you'd expect when I asked this question, would say Tomorrowland. But is there anywhere else besides that that you can sort of say in your mind, that's my dream gig?
I think the Ultra Series would be mind blowing. Ultra Miami, Ultra Taiwan, where Lesso played like literally like 2 months ago, which was incredible. Ultra Europe, been there a couple of times as a spectator. Always mind blowing. So good. That sort of stuff like EDC. Love to play on that sort of series. Even Tomorrowland, even just if it was a set, like, so I know like Lee and everyone and Parts and all those guys have played where you kind of like get a little slot and people can go and watch it. Even just something like that, like whether it's to a room of like 50 people there or whatever. But yeah, obviously Tomorrowland's a big one. But I think like little venues as well, kind of like small intimate venues that I didn't get to play in a band. So say like, you know, your Birmingham Academy 1 main room, your Manchester Academy 1 main room, Printworks in London, main room Victoria Warehouse, just all those sorts of things as well. I think especially if you're bringing in all your own production, like all your own lighting crew and all your tour staff and all that sort of thing. I think those gigs would be mind blowing. Like, and everyone can get there, 100%.
Of course, it's all about the mindset. And again, a lot of people don't hear that because it's a generic thing to say, but it's fucking true.
It is. Honestly, mate, you nailed it on the head.
Who is A, overall your biggest inspiration, and then B, maybe your biggest inspiration at the moment?
Biggest inspiration would probably be the likes of Martin Garrix, for instance. Martin Garrix went from being obviously that young lad to now being just a powerhouse in the dance industry. And I've watched a couple of his Martin Garrix episodes from when he was younger compared to now. And I just really, really liked, like, I'm massively into like pre-production. I really, really like light shows. And I really like the way that he kind of, when he got his lighting crew and he got his tour crew, he was always the guy that wanted to like take charge and make sure it was looking like this on this drop, and make sure it was like, you know, the lasers came out on this build up and all that sort of stuff. And to me, like that things, just little things like that, where you make a show go from like there to there through like lighting or through like pyro or whatever. Like he was just, the way that he just did everything from a young lad that studied music production in uni to now like one of the world's biggest DJs and producers. He was just mind-blowing to kind of follow after. And I'd always listen to his songs and it'd be like, he's always got like that signature sound, hasn't he? He's always got like different little bits coming in that you know is a Garrix tune. So he's definitely one. And I'd also say probably my favourites are like, probably Garrix, Alesso, Charmy and Marla. I think they'd probably be the biggest four for me.
Really?
They're all, Alesso I love his different styles. I've always really, really, really enjoyed his sets live. I love all the stuff he's been releasing. Martin Garrix I've always digged and he's been great live. And then Charmy and Marla, like that, obviously they're a bit different on the bass house sort of things, but they're just mind-blowing. And Marla especially, his marketing and his promotion on his socials went from like that to that. And he's just all sorts of guys for me, really, I think. 100%.
Well, that's one of those things where obviously all these guys that we're talking about, we all know them firstly for their music. We don't know them because maybe they're insane DJs. We know them because they make amazing music and we want to go and see them live. So would you say that you need to be producing music to be successful?
I mean, don't get me wrong, and this is a thing that we've talked about with the guys that I'm kind of like working with at the minute. I'm still getting my head around the whole producing sort of thing. And there's a guy that I know who I used to go to uni with, who I'm working with. I think we're going to probably write some songs together because he's a guitarist and he's just recently got into like production as well. And we're talking about releasing music probably like back end of this year. But he has no idea how to DJ.
Right.
Obviously, we're kind of like going to work together on the whole production thing, and then I'm going to obviously talk to him about like the DJ sort of things. But I mean, I don't think I've got super far in like the 4 years that I've been doing this, but you know, I think I've released probably like a tiny bit of music, whether it's been like a remix of a popular song or whatever on SoundCloud. And to me, I've got this far pretty much through just DJing really. And I'd like, obviously everybody wants to hear your music, but I know that a lot of people just get into producing just because they want a song out there that's going to launch them into the music industry and get big. And they might release like 5, 6, 7, 8 songs before that even happens. But I know that a lot of people, like when they're releasing music, they kind of like, it just kind of sounds like everything that's coming out at the minute. And everything's so saturated because, you know, music's changing all the time, especially in the charts. Like everything's kind of like, it goes from like house one year to being a bit more like samba another year and being like trap one year and all that sort of stuff. So it's always changing, and producers are always kind of like going, right, well, I need to write this tune to get this big. And I know that a lot of producers don't want to stick to the sort of sound that they want to be known for. So in theory, I kind of, don't get me wrong, I think releasing music, and this is the same on the band and all that sort of stuff when we used to write and release tunes, like getting music out there is good, but I think also having like a brand and, you know, whether it's like good social media and just like, you know, good energy on stage like yourself. I've seen your videos and I'm like, I can imagine what you're like on stage, and that's great energy-wise. So what I'm like, there's no point DJing and standing still behind that. It's like Next Generation the other week when he said that, I was like, he fucking knows exactly, because there's no, if you get into it and you stood still, people are not going to enjoy your show, and that's how it is, and that's always what I've kind of been just drilled into for years and years and years. So in theory, I'm kind of like yes or no, 50-50, I think, on that question.
Because I think like I've asked this question before in a previous interview, and the more that I think about it, I sort of think to myself, okay, in a realistic world, could I get to Ultra main stage, Tomorrowland main stage, purely off of DJing and never having produced a track? And there isn't so many examples of guys that have reached those levels that have never produced a track, but there is guys out there that are playing the main stages that aren't having people go and see them because they make amazing music. They're having people go and see them because of how they play on stage, how they are as a DJ. So I'd say vast majority of Laid Back Luke crowd, they don't go to see his new track, you know, Party Starter or Rise or whatever. They go to see him because he's a legendary DJ. The best example, I'd say, for my theory here is Salvatore Ganacci. No one's going to see him because they're like, oh, you know that new song that he made with so-and-so? Everyone is going to watch him because he's a madman on stage.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And so it's like, he hasn't blown up like Garrix because he's made an incredible track that's resonated with people. Side note, he is an insanely talented producer and he makes some absolute bangers. But vast majority of people do not go and see him because he's an incredible producer. They go and see him because of what he does on stage.
Yeah.
So guys like him, guys like Laid Back Luke. There was another guy I mentioned as well. I don't know if you've heard of that Diego Miranda before.
Rings a bell, yeah.
He's a Brazilian guy, and he was massive in Brazil for years. Like he'd play to these massive like Creamfields type version in Brazil, and he'd never produced a song before.
Real.
And I'm sure he played Tomorrowland. I don't know if he played the main stage, but he played some big stages at Tomorrowland, like 2017, 18, 19, before he'd ever made a track. And then recently, like I think maybe 2 years ago, he started releasing music like on Spinning and Revealed and whatnot. But he got insanely far without making a thing. another guy that came to mind as well was DJ Blend.
Oh yeah. You're right.
And then you look at so the more I think about it, there's more examples coming to mind where I'm like, a lot of us a lot of people that I speak to, they get into it because of their love for music and they want to play it to people. They want to sort of curate a playlist, get it out there, and play all of these amazing tracks to people and get people discovering all these different, new tunes.
Yeah.
And for me, anyway, producing would be a side note. My main goal in life is to put out to the world amazing dance music, like particularly in this country. I think we've got our heads in the sand at the moment with the with our interests in music. Like, I think the future is in dance music, whether it be house, whether it be EDM, whether it be techno. That is the future to me. And so yeah, I think personally, that's a big possibility. That we could see more people on stage. I mean, Jesus Christ, we've got all those guys that are really talented, but then we've now been seeing, as of late, people like Paris Hilton, Gianluca Vacci, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
On these stages, they've never made a track. So it's like
yeah,
it opens Pandora's box a bit.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I know that a lot of good DJs, a lot of good producers are not as technical DJ wise. But some like it's exactly like you said. Like, Layback Luke makes really, really good music, but he's just his live show and the way that he's all that sort of stuff is exactly why you go see him. And that was another thing when we started this brand. We were like, we didn't set out to kind of be the next producer or the next whatever. We kind of just set out to just have a really good time, try and get better all the time at DJing, and just put on a really, really good show, something that people are gonna come and watch. And at the minute, it's the same for when I've been streaming, like having all the lights going off and all the strobe lights and getting on the mic and appreciating everybody that's coming in and watching the streams. I've had people at the minute like say, your streams have been helping me so much because we can't go out and we can't go and see you live and we can't go to a club and we can't see our favorite DJs. And the fact that the streams are kind of happening, whether it's every weekend or every fortnight or whatever, people are always kind of like really, really excited to tune in because you play those songs that people are really like. You're playing new tunes that people didn't even know kind of existed, like you said. And just getting involved with everyone, getting on the mic and making sure everyone's okay. And, and I think to a lot of people, like it's quite hard getting a lot of people to go and listen to your music. Like, they've got to click all these links and and people don't have the time sometimes, but kind of like, as soon as people kind of like want to get a bit rowdy and a bit drunk and want to go to a gig and want to see you live, like, people love that sort of stuff. So it's kind of, yeah, it's 50-50, I think. It's a good question. It's a good question.
I'd like to end this with a couple of quick games. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go into saw mode here. Want to play a game? So, the first one is, we'll do a couple examples. I want you to explain to someone who has no sort of idea or understanding about dance music in any sense. First of all, I want you to explain to someone who has never listened to dance music or anything like that. I want you to explain to them what is hardstyle, and then secondly, what is trance.
Hardstyle is 140 to whatever BPM. Mind blowing, takes your head off. You can't dance to it really, unless you've got ADHD. And then trance is sick. Love trance. It's feeling music, loads of sims, loads of lasers. You'll love it.
That is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. Round of applause, people. Thank you. Absolutely fantastic. Jesus Christ. Number 9 over here. Right. And then the next game we're going to play quickly is, I'm going to say a subgenre,
Yep.
dance music, and all I want you to do is say, ideally, a word that comes to mind, but you can elaborate if needed. But just off the top of your head, the first thing that comes to mind, you don't have to think too deep about it. Just literally, as I say, the first thing that comes to mind. Okay?
Got it.
Okay, cool. So, first one, progressive house.
Mind blowing.
Deep house.
Soulful.
Big room.
Stomping feet.
Hardstyle.
Shit.
Okay, we might get a few more of those yet. Trans.
What was that?
Trans.
Trance. Feelings.
Psytrance.
A cup of tea in the morning music. Maybe.
Seriously?
Maybe.
I've never heard that. My answer when I say psytrance is tribal.
Oh, okay. All right, we'll go with tribal.
No. You said cup of tea. We're going with cup of tea. Honest answer I've ever had, and I've doubted that one. But wow, fair enough. I've never ever put the two together. Let's see. Bass house.
Gun fingers.
Yep, lovely. Techno.
Ketty.
Dubstep.
Oh. Mind boggling.
Drum and bass.
ADHD feet.
Trap.
Trap. Don't really know a word to say for trap, really.
So I couldn't really think of much to say for trap. For dubstep, I just put screech. Drum and bass, I just put busy. Trap, I just put heavy. I genuinely didn't.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of anything else for trap.
Yeah, trap is yeah, it is heavy, really, isn't it?
I can't think of any other word for it.
Yeah. Explosive.
Yes. Yeah. There we go. Bang.
Very.
Happy hardcore.
Cocaine driven.
I put childish.
Yours is so much better than mine. I didn't have to think of that.
Don't forget, your answers are on the spot. I've had a little bit of time to chew these over. Tropical house.
Year 11.
Wow. Care to elaborate?
I don't mind tropical, but I think it's when you're going through a breakup with your first girlfriend in year 11 and she's just dumped you for another lad who's in your class. That's what it's about. And you listen to tropical because Kygo just brings all the feels and you're like, fuck that bitch. I'm going to fuck the next girl who is in the same class to make you jealous. How about that one?
Just a whiff of Lynx chocolate in the air as well.
Yeah, just put on your Lynx Africa, year 11 style. Let's go.
Oh my God, brilliant. Oh, groove and funk.
Ooh, fantastic.
Wow. Okay.
I'm into that.
Finally, future bass.
Future bass. Oh, butterflies.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. You like that one?
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you for taking part in those games and for chatting to me. What have you got on the horizon and what are your plans for the future?
Well, so I am currently working with the collective / Black Widow Design. I've got an artist management deal with them. So at the minute, we're kind of talking through stream ideas, kind of like sort of stuff that like Next Gen's been doing. So he's, you know, all the sort of the cool professional streams that he's been doing. We're in talks with, you know, like coming up with like locations, you know, when the next streams are going to be happening. That Zupa guy that's one of my friends, hopefully we'll be releasing some music in the next year. Loads of streams. I'm streaming tonight on Lockdown Radio on Mixcloud. They pretty much stream every weekend from Friday to Sunday. They're getting numbers of like 500-600 viewers a day. So wow. I'm playing there 10 o'clock tonight, 10 to 11 doing, I think you'd enjoy it, you know, I'm doing a kind of third party / Crider set.
Beautiful.
I think you'd dig that. Yeah, just loads more streams, loads more photo shoots, keeping busy, releasing as much content as possible. And as soon as gigs come back, obviously we've got that Mike Williams show. We've got a couple of other shows that that hopefully we can kind of get in the horizon. More residencies, just trying to keep as busy as possible, really.
Beautiful. Make sure to go and follow all things Yetii.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you for chatting to me, mate. And
that's probably the best Sunday morning I've had in a long while.
Well, we'll do it again in you know, maybe 3-6 months time, whenever.
Yeah, cool.
You know, there's more to chat about again. We'll have another catch up.
And to be honest with you, mate, I'm digging the sort of the series that you're doing, getting to chat to everyone. It's been a pleasure to come on. I appreciate that.
Thank you, brother.
No worries, mate.
You take it easy.